It's 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting of the Halifax Planning Board of 7 o'clock in the Great Hall for Thursday's meeting, November 7th, 2024 at 7 o'clock p.m. Just to let everyone know, the Planning Board meeting is being recorded by Area 58 and can be viewed on YouTube. Okay, what we're going to do, from our agenda, we're going to start off with a discussion on the zoning overlay as required by law. What I'm going to ask Mr. Haddad, our town administrator, to give a quick presentation. There's printouts in the back, and also it'll appear here on the screens to give some details on what's involved, and then we'll go from there, open it up for discussion. Mr. Haddad?
Are we going to be able to see it at all?
You may want to open the public hearing, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I will. Okay. This is a notice of public hearing. The Halifax Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 7th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the Great Hall at Halifax Town Hall, 499 Plymouth Street, Halifax, Massachusetts, 02338. The purpose of this hearing will be to review a proposed amendment to the town zoning bylaw, chapter 167-4, enumeration of districts, and article 5, 167-18, MBTA communities, multifamily overlay district, otherwise known as MCMOD. The text comprising the proposed zoning bylaw and amendments may be inspected at the office of the town clerk, Halifax Town Hall, 499 Plymouth Street, Halifax, Mass. Signed the planning board. Can I have a motion to open the hearing? Or motion to open the hearing?
Moved. Motion moved.
We have a motion and a second to open the hearing. I'll ask for a roll call vote. Brendan?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Rick?
Yes.
Passes unanimous, 4-0. Hey, Mr. Haddad.
Very good, thank you. For the record, Cody Haddad, Town Administrator. So I really just want to start and give a very brief overview of what this is, what the requirement is, and why we're here tonight. As there's some familiar faces in the audience tonight, we had a public meeting on this back in October to go over more details. That's really not the point of this tonight. The point of this is, per Mass General Law, the Planning Board is required to hold a public hearing for any proposed zoning changes, and then they can choose to either make a recommendation for or against. That'll be shared with town meeting. So this is that Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5, which explains the requirements of what we're doing here tonight with the Planning Board. A public hearing to hear the public for the Planning Board, and to the Planning Board will choose to either make a recommendation for or against, or they can choose to take no action at all and not provide any recommendation. So I just want to start off with, this is it. This is what Chapter 3A says for the MBTA zoning. So there's a lot of guidelines and information out there, but the reality is it comes down to, this is the law. And the law is that towns that have an MBTA station or an abutting MBTA station are required to have a zoning district with a density of 15 units per acre within a half a mile is what the law says. And then it goes on to detail some of the funding that could be at risk of if you don't choose to do that. So all of the other information, the 750 units that the requirement is, 40% within, potentially out of, is all guidelines that the Housing and Livable Communities developed. But the law is actually quite clear and simple. So what are we proposing for a town meeting to consider? An overlay district that would allow multifamily housing as of right within the district, which I'll get to the map shortly. A site plan review would be required for any projects within the overlay. There would be a possibility for mixed-use development on the first floor, but would be required to have multifamily housing on the other floors. These are the dimensional standards, so there'd be a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet, the maximum height of 2.5 stories, 2 spaces per unit, The setbacks, 30 feet in the front, 20 feet on the side and rear. There'd have to be 10,000 square feet per dwelling unit. Maximum coverage of the building on the lot's 25%. They'd have to keep 40% open space. And then this is where we're talking about, you're really speaking of 4 parcels. So there is no single-family home parcels included in this. There's 3 of these parcels, which are on the southernmost portion of the map, are the current Twin Lakes condominium development. And then the parcel that's the most north, directly abuts the train station, is owned by the Halifax Garden Company. And it's about 194 acres total that we're speaking of. So the biggest parcel owned by Twin Lakes, 109 acres. You have another parcel owned by Twin Lakes, approximately 13 acres. The third Twin Lakes parcel is 25 acres, and then about 47 acres, 47 3/4 acres owned by the Halifax Garden Company. So again, I think the really important thing here is the state came down with a law that said Halifax is an MBTA community, and they're requiring that multifamily housing be zoned for as of right. Not anything necessarily be built, but be zoned. The Zoning Bylaw Review Committee was tasked with presenting options to the town. The Board of Selectmen is proposing this as an option. The Board of Selectmen hasn't come out and said that they recommend this, but in the best interest of the town, they want to present something to the community for you all to choose. And so that's why it's important. December 16th is the town meeting, and that's when you all choose, as the town, what you want, whether to adopt this or to not adopt this. And that's, again, I don't want to get too much into the weeds. I think it's better to just allow questions to come forward, but that's a general synopsis of what we're looking at here tonight.
Okay, thank you. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to ask if there are any questions from the members of the board, and then I'm going to open it up to the public. I'm going to ask, again, I don't know if some people came in later on, but there is a sign-up sheet here, a clipboard up front if you want to make a statement, ask a question. There's a clipboard up here on the front row. I'm going to ask that your questions or your opinions and your statements, try to limit it to 2 or 3 minutes so we can get everybody who wants to make a statement, give them a chance. And again, respect other people's opinions as far as clapping or booing. So why don't I open it up to members of the board first? Are there any questions or that any of the board members have?
I don't have any questions. I think we should just open up for questions.
Yeah, I think I think any input I have is going to be based off of some of the questions that get asked by the general public. So
Okay.
I'd like to defer to that.
Rick?
No questions, pretty much what Brenda said, see what everybody has to say and what we can reflect on that and how we're gonna
Okay, the only other thing is I agree with Mr. Haddad, just so that everybody knows it. We're not voting on this as whether to implement the MBTA requirement or the law. This is just a recommendation that they ask of those people who have certainly attended the town meetings. They ask for the recommendation of different boards, so that's what we are here to do tonight. So I'll grab the list. I'll start the list. Thank you very much. Okay, the first person on here is Mr. Donnelly, Van Donnelly. You just state your name and your address, please, sure, for the record.
Van Donnelly, 201 Cranberry Drive. A couple of questions I have is, the number one would be Bobby and Hardy, just say against all of this.
1 second. Yes. Cody.
He's got it right there.
Oh, microphone?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Van Donnelly, 201 Cranberry Drive. Just wanted to state first that I'm going to be lobbying hard against this zoning act because I think it was put down for the governor as take it or else. And again, don't appreciate that. And I don't appreciate if hopefully if our board supports something where we're being told what to do. I think the election just confirmed nationwide that we don't like to be told what to do. So that might be a little bit of a primer for what you might want to take a look at going forward. And then I would start to say too, on some of this plan here, there's a comment that says parking surface, one or more parking spaces without the built structure above the space. So we saying here that there will be no parking garages that'll be allowed down on that site. In other words, so they can have more for residential units if they go ahead and have a 2.5-story parking garage on that site. That's the first question I have for you.
Okay, let me see if I can find out an answer for you. Mr. Haddad, we have another microphone up here if you'd like.
Can you just point me to where you're referring to?
Sure. Item number 6 on back of page 1, it says parking surface, one or more parking spaces without a built structure above the space. A solar panel designed to be installed above the surface parking space does not count as a built structure for the purpose of this definition. So the question is, can they build themselves a 2.5-story limit parking garage where they can go ahead and put the cars in that space and put more residential units in there?
No, this is defining a parking space. So it's a space built without a structure above the space, and a solar panel designed to be installed on the subsurface does not count as a built structure. So
Yeah,
you could have solar above it.
It says right here, though, it says a solar panel designed to be installed above the surface does not count. Okay, so what they're saying is either you can have a parking area with covered parking with the solar panels on top of it, right? So if you're gonna do anything here, you should outlaw it in here in the spec that any kind of a high-rise parking type garage over that 2.5 stories should not be allowed on the premise. Now, this is just trying to make this better if it goes to town, but again, we can't against it.
That wouldn't be allowable. If it's not specifically allowable within this, that wouldn't be allowed.
It's ambiguous.
Doesn't say that.
Right, but it would have to specifically allow it within the bylaw, and it
Yeah,
doesn't.
so you're saying, well, they could do it.
No, I'm saying they could not, because nothing specifically allows it. They could do parking spaces with solar, like a solar canopy above it.
It does seem very ambiguous.
It's basically saying either you can put a covered parking over that unit, okay? Or the solar, it's not clarified whether you can do multi-family, 2.5 story, because that's the height.
But it says it defines a parking space as without a structure. So they can't put a structure for parking.
Yeah, but they're gonna have to put a structure for solar if they did that. There'll be a structure.
And that's why it goes on to define that solar.
I'm just saying, you gotta clarify that. It's just so that that doesn't happen, because now you're getting more units. Because who wants to go into lawyers here and argue, well, that's what it says, right? So we just wanna clarify that you're not gonna put more parking spaces in one area to meet a requirement for 2 per unit, and then you go ahead and use the extra money to build more facilities. So that's question 1. Just to point that out. The other questions that I got for you here too is about all this mixed-use residential development. We're building a little city down there, and the reason for that is the only way they're gonna pay for that is they gotta have all that commercial space in there. Otherwise, this is not gonna be attractive to any builder, unless they can put all of this self-sustaining community in down there to do it, rather than use the Walmart or whatever, what we all do, right? So, the idea of having that in there, what has that got to do with multifamily? Can anyone explain to me that? You're not housing anybody in the restaurant, right? And not only that, but you're gonna put our other people down there, restaurants and stuff, out of business if you're gonna put this in here too, not right for the people who've been paying taxes here for years. So you need to take a look at that one.
Let me see if I can find out an answer about that. Mr. Cody,
Sure. So this is mixed-use development is allowed per the Chapter 3A. So when the zoning bylaw review committee met to make a recommendation of what they felt was best, the reason that they included this was that they thought it would be a good idea for the community. New growth is down in the community. We don't have a lot of revenue coming in, so it could be an opportunity to potentially bring in some revenue and promote small businesses.
Revenue for who?
For the town of Halifax.
Yeah, well, if you're gonna get the tax base on that, right, this whole thing becomes unfeasible if all this multi-use isn't done. It talks about ability to put in commercial down there too, it doesn't say what type of commercial, right? Any of this can go down, what's the water usage you're gonna put in there? What's all of this? right? So the idea is you've opened this up, that they're able to build a multifamily complex just like a little city. And whatever water, whatever electricity is generated down there, that's all gonna be on the town. They're gonna pay for everything on that site, everyone gets that. But the problem you're gonna have is all of the kids or whatever that come into that building, you're gonna go to the town, you're gonna ask for a massive school overlay. You're gonna put the elderly communities in trouble, because where's that extra, $750 to $200,000 kids gonna go? They're gonna go here. The state isn't paying for that. Everyone in this room is gonna pay for that. Okay, if that's to the board recommendations, you need to consider what you're telling the people in the elderly park and the other people in the communities here. That you're behind that you're gonna go after this. You're recommending that we increase the taxes in the town, because that's what's coming. There's no way around it, right? You can't, right now, we got problems in the school already. What are we, $6 million in debt or something like that to Silver Lake? We got people that can't pay their taxes in other areas, and we're gonna go back to them all and say, here's your override, and we don't wanna sneak it through. You wanna be upfront with them and tell them that this is the cost of this when you do it. If they decide to vote for it, it's up to them. But I hope they join me in just shutting it down. If the governor came to us on all of this and said, you know what would you guys like to do? What can you do? Okay? The same thing that happened in an election the other day. They told us what we wanted to do, and we all said, no, go home. Right? So now hopefully the governor's seeing what's happening here. Because Massachusetts is climbing up the ladder. And it ain't going to be long when this keeps happening here that other people are going to get voted out because they don't understand what the citizens are saying. This is our town. We can't go to these people and tell them that, hey, we're going to mix-use commercial now. We don't even know the impact of that. And you don't even know what any commercial can go in there. You've approved it already. So they can put it on that site.
Mr. Haddad, if I could ask for some clarification for myself. If this is voted one way, yes or no, it still has to go through the whole permit process, through site plan review, through conservation, through Board of Health. And can conditions and limitations be put on this, to exclude or include different things during the permit process?
So it would still go through a site plan review process. You can't require a special permit or action before the Zoning Board of Appeals. To the point of utilities and things of that nature, so National Grid provides the electricity, so that's not on the town in Halifax. As far as water, this is zoning overlay, so it doesn't exempt any sort of other permitting. They would still have to get an interconnection permit through the water department, and if there were a case where, then they can't.
Mr. Donnelly, could you let him finish, please?
If there were not enough volume, or they couldn't approve the application, then they can't approve the application. That's part of this law, is that you can't build a development if you can't support it with water. And same with sewer infrastructure. They'd have to be able to build
Yeah, they would
sewer
have to go to a
infrastructure.
well rather than use town. So the question is here, they're removing a lot of the town restrictions by this zoning so they can get this through.
Yes, they
And
are.
all this commercial that's gonna go on here, okay, it's the only way they can build these developments, because they're not gonna be able to fund it with just the rent on those apartments. And the biggest issue for the town is to understand that what's coming to you for fire, police, and schools is gonna go through the roof. And they're not gonna tell you that here, okay? They're gonna tell you that when we say, hey, we need a school override. And guess what? We don't have a choice now, because all of the kids that were here, and we're gonna go back to ask the governor, and we should, at that point, tell her to stick it, okay? Because that's what she's telling us right now. It ain't right, it's not, it's tyranny, right? And the people just said this the other day, so please heed the message of what the country sent to the leadership. And hopefully, very shortly, there won't be a need for these apartment buildings in the state, okay? And that should hopefully begin immediately. So I would ask the Board of Selectmen to reject this, okay? Just like many other towns that are waking up around the area and had enough, okay? We need to do this. This is only the beginning. The governor's not gonna stop. Anything she wants to get through, she's gonna stick it through here. And she's pissed off everybody right now from here to the tip of New Hampshire. And she did it in a very underhanded way. So I'm just wanted to say that now. I got my 2 cents out. I'll be out there lobbying and voting against this. So a lot of our people in the town can afford to live here. I don't have a problem with the taxes. I can pay them. But it ain't fair to the people who can't, right? And if we ever did something, we should look at trying to help our own people in the town who can't pay the taxes. come up with something for that to the people that need it. I'm willing to support something like that for our own people in our town, but I'm not willing to support that for something here with thrown in. So that's it for me.
Thank you, sir. All right, the next person on the list here is Mr. David Massio. Mr. Massio, if you just give your name and address, please, for the record.
David Mascio, 16 10th Ave. So I don't know if everybody here attended the October meeting, but I want to clarify some things so that they understand. One of the things I was under the impression of was that this was going to be for subsidized housing or government-assisted housing. So this isn't. These houses are going to be sold at a premium to, $500,000 plus, if I'm correct in that ballpark, right?
I believe that they're all rental.
It would be market rate, so market rate rental.
Right.
But one thing to note, and I should have mentioned this earlier, is initially in the bylaw that was presented at that meeting that you mentioned, there was a 10% affordability requirement. So 10% of the units were going to have to be affordable in perpetuity. The Board of Selectmen took the feedback that they got from that meeting and removed that portion of the bylaw. So it is straight just market rate housing at this point.
Okay,
But to
thank
be
you.
clear, it's all rental housing. You can't just say housing.
It doesn't have to be rental. It's multifamily. It could be rental, it could be condominiums, it could be any other multifamily.
Usually they're rental. In the
Mr.
statute.
Massio?
Okay,
If you
so
read it.
then some of the other things that were brought up were what we were gonna lose, as far as the grants go. One of the grants that stood out the most for me, and I'm asking this for knowledge because I don't know. We just recently paved 106 and 58. You were expecting this. Why are we asking for a $1 million grant? Who paid for the repairs in the pavement that we currently had done on 106 and 58?
Well, I can find out what would lose if we don't commit this, but, I mean, let's stay on topic, David. We're talking about the housing.
Why?
No, this is actually part of
MBTA.
it. This is actually part of it.
My point. Please let me talk, Bert.
Sure.
So a few points on that. The design and construction of a project like that is several years out. Even if you applied today and you got the grant, let's say next year. Best case scenario, design through MassDOT and using part of their team. You're talking another 5 years probably for design. Then maybe another 5 or so years for construction. So we try to plan proactively and look at these things. So it's on the radar. As far as who paid for it, it was a combination of local appropriations and Chapter 90 funding through the state.
Okay, because the state roads, state repairs, so that was my question, so we paid for some of that repair?
We did. So we get Chapter 90 funding appropriated through the state for care of our roads, basically. And it was partially funded through that and partially funded through...
And I understand the part that it is a grant that we're looking to get to update the intersection. The problem with the intersection is the traffic. So, that being said, we add housing. That intersection, I don't care how you redesign it, isn't gonna get any better. Okay? We're gonna have more traffic, more people. And this is the point that some of us are trying to make, because we were trying to keep it small. And I'm not here to argue or cause a fuss. It's merely that the point that everybody's trying to make, that people are upset with, is the fact that we are a small town. Maura Healy isn't sitting here explaining to us what we need. We don't need her to tell us what we need. We need the boards, planning, zoning, select boards, to tell the state, the government, hey, we can't take this flow. It's too much. So I'm sorry to take it down. I knew what some of these answers were. Some people weren't here for that October meeting, so thank you for...
Thank you, Mr. Massio. Okay, the next person on the list is Damian, I can't read the last name.
Fantasia.
Thank you. Your
Fantasia.
name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Damian Furtasio, and I represent the interest of Cranland Airport. In disclosure, I'm not a Halifax resident, but I represent the interest of Cranland, and I think in this case, the interest of the citizens of Halifax, which are identical. Now, Cranland Airport is a is an abutter to the proposed 40A and embedded 40B project that you're talking about tonight. And it's located on the approach and departure end of Cranland's runways. It's right underneath it. Now, there are height restrictions, there are reflective restrictions imposed by the FAA on any structures that get installed in the approach paths of airports. Now, Cranland Airport is a privately owned public use airport. We've been there since the late 50s, and we've accepted federal and state dollars to maintain and keep the airport going. Now, Cranland is a part of the infrastructure of the United States. That's what the federal government and the state government considers. That's why there's certain obligations that we take on when we take federal and state money to keep the airport going. Now, that was just a long-winded way of saying Cranland isn't going anywhere. It can't go anywhere. It has to be an airport, since we've accepted federal funds and state funds. Now, you know, and we all know, that if you put a large housing development on the approach and departure end of that airport, it's going to cause problems. There will be complaints from residents, neighbors. It's just going to be, it's another factor that needs to be considered when you guys approve or deny a project of that size. And it just has to be, like I said, it has to be considered. And there are going to be restrictions. I don't know if they've looked into it. Like I said, there's going to be height and reflective considerations when you install solar panels in buildings. So if anybody needs any consultation as far as when it comes around time to zone and see what you can and can't do, you have to check into the state, the federal guidelines on what can be installed on approach and departure ends of airports. So that's just my 2 cents worth. I wish you guys well. I know these are never popular. We're going through the same fight in our town with 40Bs that seem to be infiltrating and taking over. And there is good news, though. Times change, as the first gentleman to speak, and Maura Haley's, reign, might be numbered. And the town of Milton is taking on this exact fight right now, and they're spending money on it. And I don't know what their status is, but it might be worth looking into what they're doing, because them and a few other towns are in the middle of this exact fight.
Amen.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate you letting me speak.
Thank you very much. All right, those are all the names on the list. If anybody else would like to speak, please raise your hand and I'll call on you. Yes, sir, in the black. Your name and address, please.
My name is Alan Citrappi, and I reside at 408 Twin Lakes Drive. And I just want to urge the board to recommend against this initiative in the town for a number of reasons. The first is there's no housing crisis. It's a man-made crisis in this state. It's a political crisis.
Please, let him speak.
This state is losing 1,400 people a month who can no longer afford to live in this state or don't like the politics or just want to be warned. The largest demographic of property owners in this country are the baby boomers, and we're dying. Who's going to get that housing? We're in this position because we've decided to be a sanctuary state. With the current upcoming politics, that's going away. So I urge the board to recommend against adopting this initiative. Thanks for hearing.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Andy Pongratz, 64 Palmer Mill. The gentleman before me was correct. 74 days till the new administration takes effect. Up until then, there's a mad surge going on in our on both of our borders. Mad surge. Everyone on the planet is trying to get here. Before, the administration takes effect, and then they stop all of this madness. But up until then, it's game on. They're all coming to this country, and most of the states are sane, and they have sane policies regarding illegal immigrants. This state decides it's a good idea to say, we're not going to uphold federal law, and we're going to allow them to come here. She's doubling down, and we are remaining a sanctuary state, which means they're all going to come here. They're all going to come here. So, you know, there's MGL laws and restrictions. That's all going to go out the window. Massachusetts is in a state of emergency, which gives the governor extra power to change anything whenever she wants. So she's going to see a need, because all these people are coming here, and we are I believe one in the country right to housing state. So we are mandated by law to put a roof over these people's heads. So there you go. There's the equation. We can't build our way out of this problem, and she's just making it worse. So.
Amen.
Thank you. Yes, sir, in the back.
Tom Pratt, 10 Arrowhead Path. I'm a member of the Board of Selectmen, but I'm speaking here tonight personally. So I'd just like to make it pretty clear that, you know, at the MBTA zoning law that we hosted in October, a lot of the angst fell on that side of the room. Board of Selectmen, the representative from ORPCC, the lawyer, the town administrator. And I think it is probably more important to direct it to Representative Brady and Lenatra, who put this in front of us via Maura Healy. They were the messenger. The rest of us are left to pick up the pieces. I think it's important also to note, as Cody did, that our job as the Board of Selectmen, in my opinion, was to put it in front of the town vote. It wasn't to recommend it, which we have not done. We haven't taken any stance on it. It was incumbent upon us to put it in front of the town at the December meeting. We fulfilled that obligation. My vote, as a Board of Selectmen member and a member of this town, will be to vote no. I would ask the planning board to consider the whole picture. It's important to get it to the town as a representative vote. It is not incumbent upon you as a board to recommend it because it was asked of you to do so. That's right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pratt. Actually, Mr. Haddad, if I'm not correct, it's not that we were asked to do it, it's mandated by law that we have a public hearing.
Yeah, so Chapter 40A, Section 5, for any zoning changes, not just the MBTA, but any zoning changes that were to come before the town, the planning board is supposed to have a public hearing, and you can render a report, is what the state calls it, to town meeting. And typically within that report, you would say, we recommend that the town adopt these zoning changes, this is why, or no, as a planning board, we do not recommend the town adopt this, and here's why. Or your third option is to take no action at all, and then when you get to town meeting, the moderator will likely say, you know, did the planning board hold a public hearing? Yes. What was the planning board's recommendation? The planning board didn't make a recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Could somebody else, any other questions, raise your hand and we'll call on you? You've already, yes, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted, there's a couple things we want to mention, gentlemen, back here. But we got the selectmen here to look at all of what's going on here, right? And make a recommendation to the town. The finance committee does it all the time. We don't recommend this, we recommend this. Why can't the people that we put in here to elect for us take a stand, all right, and say, we don't recommend it at the town meeting, but yet we're gonna let this fly?
They will, they plan to. The Board of Selectmen will be making a recommendation on whether to recommend it or not.
Why isn't it now so that people know where we stand?
Well, they're gonna make it prior to you voting at town meeting.
Yeah, 5 minutes prior, so the town doesn't know what's going on. At the planning board meeting here tonight, they should have some way to get this out to us ahead of the meeting so that they're making a stand on whether they recommend this or they don't. Right? I mean, this is leadership 101. Either step up to the plate or get the hell out of the job. Just say you want it and you don't. Right? I mean, that's pretty simple stuff. up.
I would like,
Military guy. That's number
yeah,
one.
I'm all in, buddy. I got you. And I meant that respectfully, not disrespectfully.
Yeah, I understand that.
I would like to point out, though, that you do have at least one selectman that did show up and stood up
He
and,
did.
and,
I
and
appreciate
declared
that.
what his vote
I
was,
asked
so.
him, and he didn't get the other answers, but I got his.
Well, let's at least acknowledge that what you just said, at least one of them
Stood
were
up,
here, yeah.
And I appreciated that, and I think I called that out when he did. And
Yes.
I asked him, can't we get hold of marketing, and can't we get legal to check our other options?
Right.
I haven't heard anyone looking at that, right? Just the idea that before that town meeting, there should something go out that say, you're going to town meeting, the Board of Selectmen does not recommend it, but it's out there for you to consider, okay, that kind of deal. And the second thing, we talked about the laws, right? About we're basically not meeting with the law of Massachusetts if we do this, right? She broke the damn law letting illegals in here against the federal government, okay? Now we're out here, let's break it here, right? She doesn't care about the law, she's doing it anyway. So, I mean, the Supreme Court or whatever on this, and then we got a train station, oh, by the way, 10 years after it's open, now we're gonna lock something onto you after it's already, take it back if you're gonna do that, So anyway, that's it.
Thank you, sir.
There's a woman in the back that's had her hand up quite a bit.
Somebody else in the back?
You've had your hand up, ma'am.
Deb?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
Your name and address, please?
Deborah Pasquale, 9 Ocean Ave, Halifax. And I think most of us here and most of us in the town just do not want this. We feel that our resources cannot sustain this. Also, from living on the pond where we have the state boat ramp, already people have come and overrun the state boat ramp where one day there was a boat fire and there were cars and trailers parked all along Route 58. The rescue team could not even get in to help with the boat fire. Eventually they did, but it was really extremely difficult. The other day I'm on the pond and it's overrun with jet skis. I know that's a separate issue, but I believe you need to look at the safety of a town where you have two great bodies of water that are recreational, fully recreational, that people have found out, that it's recreational, so it's growing. And the other day I witnessed a plane landing on the water and the jet skis, there were 5 or 6 of them out there railing all around the plane. It was difficult for them to take off. And I think we're just going to have more of that. I think you need to realize that we're going to have a lot more of that if this goes through and we have more housing and it's just open, just like, I'm sorry, open, like ridiculously, like overrun. Also, the 4th Ave Beach has had a problem where it's supposed to be residents only, and that had been overrun. And I think we're going to have problems with that, where people have come, left trash and dirty diapers, and just started some problems with the residents. And the parking there also was a problem. They were overrun with parking there where they shouldn't have been. And also, we're going to have more first responders, water issues. We live on practically wetlands. We're surrounded by wetlands that can't sustain this building. And most of us feel like you should just stand by us and just say no. Just no. It just can't happen here. And we even go into Walmart and there's like, empty shelves, empty food on the shelves. So it's just a lot to consider. And we just hope you stand behind us. I know there are other towns, and I have read all the statistics, that there are other towns that they had just said no. Yep. That the board and the selectmen, the towns, the mayors, whatever, have stood up to this bullshit law and have said no. And we just hope you do that for us.
Okay, thank you.
Karen Favor, 66 Clyde, Bosworth Road. I just want to say I'm against this as well. Sorry. Thanks, Bill.
It's, yeah. Put it on the other way and then flip the whole stand around. Flip the whole stand around. I'll do that. That works.
I'll reach in.
Where's our designated microphone holder? Go ahead,
So
sorry.
I'm against this, and I hope that you'll support the citizens of the town residents here and the taxpayers. I also want to say that Middleborough and Norton also just recently voted this down. They said no. Milton, as we know, is already in a fight, and I think there was one or two other people that were considering saying no as well. So we're not alone if we say no. I also want to mention that if we have the portion of these 195 acres reserved for this MBTA, it doesn't, anyone that has a single-family home now in that district, they could sell their home and a builder could come in and scoop that up and build these units. That means their neighbors on both sides are gonna have to, you know, sit there with what they thought when they bought their homes was residential, single-family homes, and now you see it all over. You see it right here in Hanson, that anytime there's a property, they break it down, they get rid of that property, and now you have multi-units. That's not what Halifax was. That's not why I bought in Halifax. And, you know, again, people are also already saying that the school system and our public services, it's all affected. Our water supply as well. So I would just like to say, please support us and say no.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Bert,
if there's
Bert,
nobody else to vote.
Bert, just a point of
Oh, I thought it was
clarification.
you.
Just a point of clarification. What's being proposed, there are no single-family parcels being proposed to have this overlay district applied. So there are no current single-family homes, if this were passed, that could then be demolished and a multifamily housing be developed. It's 4 parcels, 3 of them are Twin Lakes, which is multifamily condominiums now, and 1 is a vacant parcel, which is that garden company.
Okay, thank you, Sue. Yes, ma'am.
Should I touch this? Jerry Presby, I live on Aldana Road. What guarantee do we have that once these zoning changes are in place, that other areas that are just outside of that overlay aren't changed? So can you guarantee that if this is approved, which I am totally against, that people outside of that area couldn't request zoning changes?
I'll ask Mr. Haddad, but it would still, any change in, or in addition to an overlay, would still have to go in front of town meeting and follow a process.
Yeah, with the current law, zoning changes have to go before town meeting, just like this is coming before town meeting. If it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass. I mean, I can't guarantee that the law doesn't change. I can't guarantee you that. And just a point, Bert, if you don't mind, I make, and Mr. Pratt mentioned this. I do not represent the state of Massachusetts. I represent the town of Halifax. I work for the town. I'm the town administrator for the town of Halifax. I'm impartial in these things. My job is to make sure that the facts, that the residents in the community have the facts and can make informed decisions. That is all. So I think I've been getting a lot of heat on some of these things. I'm impartial. It doesn't matter either way. I follow through with what's best for the town and how the town votes. And my job is to make sure you have the information. So that's all I'm here for tonight. I just want to make sure that's clear.
The other question I have is regarding the garden lands. Is that all wetlands, or is that something that can be sold and be built on?
How much of that is wetlands, Mr.
It's about 80 to 85% wetlands, and there's some upland that could potentially be developed. It's sporadic in spots, but there is some upland that could be developed.
So then nothing can be developed on the wetlands, only the uplands? on the Rose Garden project.
Unless some work is done and they can get it to perk.
Well, that's it. So once you get
Right.
these big multi-million-dollar developers in there,
Right. Yep.
they can basically do whatever they want. It's a bad situation. It's a bad mandate. And whether we get lawyers involved or try to have a group of towns involved to fight this, I think that's the only way that we can keep our small town feel where we have a somewhat handle on what we can do. And taking away grants from us if we don't comply is a bunch of baloney. And the fact that we would end up paying tens of millions of dollars more for a little lousy grant, it's not worth it, and I'm totally against it.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to ask the board members, I'm going to start with Mr. Brennan, and if you'd like to address some of
We
the
have somebody
questions or comments that were made.
Yeah, we got one more from the audience there, if we want to.
Dave.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to say one more. Actually, what I want to do, and hopefully I'm speaking up loud enough, I want to make clear to the residents that you guys are just doing your due diligence along with all the other boards, okay? That's the decision. It's up to us as a town to make the final vote. What does aggravate me, up until just a few seconds ago, was you're impartial. You work for the town of Halifax, for us. You could care either way. That doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy. Not one bit. But thank you.
So if you don't, Cody, do you mind? So if I could, Dave, and I understand where you're going with that. The way I interpreted that was that it is his job as an employee of the town to deliver the information in an unbiased and impartial way so that we can make our own decision and not persuade us in a specific purpose. The thing that sucks for him is he's the messenger.
Dave, let him finish,
right?
please.
So he's the messenger here, right? And when it comes to something, especially on a town level with residents that are as passionate about our town as we are, somebody's got to stand in front of the firing line. And I think that, to that point, I do understand, because when he said that, I kind of had that too. I was like, what do you mean you're impartial? Because everybody in here is not. But I obviously, as he spoke, I took it as he's impartial for the delivery of the information, but not necessarily on his opinion on it. But that's how I received it. Am I accurate to hear that? And again, not to argue with you, Dave, at all.
My apologies.
No,
My apologies for the attack. However, I live here.
Right.
These people live here.
Yep.
We don't want to hear that. You're caring for our town.
Right.
You're the administrator for our town.
Right. I don't vote, though. My job is to provide the information so you can make an informed decision at town meeting. That is all.
The
So,
information that you're privy to and all the information brings you to the speculation of whether we can or cannot do this in this town.
So-
Everybody in this room knows we can.
but it's my job to provide the information, and that's exactly what I am doing. And then the town at town meeting makes the decision, whichever way you want to go.
So I did have a question. I reserved my initial questions for the end because I wanted to hear what everybody had to say and thought of. So bear with me for a moment, please. It's been a practice of mine throughout my life and in business that I try to take on complicated situations and think of them simply, right? And one of the things that served me well on both ends is if the upside outweighs the downside, you do it. And if the downside outweighs the upside, you just don't do it. So my question, in an effort to get as much information to the public as possible, is I think we're all very aware of what the downside is to this. And I think one of the ways that we may be able to really solidify the knowledge and the information to the voters and to the public is if we could in some way say, hypothetically speaking, in an unbiased manner, what are the top 3 pros to this? Like, in the best interest of this town? Because if the upside, I understand.
Please let him finish.
But what I'm saying, just from a hypothetical situation, what would a couple of upsides to this project be that could possibly, or actually, not even that could possibly outweigh the downsides, because I think we all know the answer. But just for the sake of my own curiosity, and not that I'm putting it on you, but because you are the key holder here of the information. What is a potential upside to this that we could even consider? Because I'm not seeing one, and I don't think anybody in this room is seeing one. And as far as I'm concerned, I want to be careful here. You'd be surprised how liable I get. So, and our attorney would attest to that. I think that the foundation of this country was built on when you tell us or else, we'll pick or else no matter what it is. And so for me, what I'm trying to say is as soon as somebody says or else, I'm locked and loaded and ready for or else. But I would like to, as a elected member of this town, at least give a chance to be able to say, is there an upside and what would it possibly be without the bias side to it? Is there any upside points to this that we can possibly grab at before we destroy it?
Mr. Haddad?
I think, it's a very good question. I think it's one that is certainly probably, you could probably get a better answer from the individuals who implemented this. The only reason that the Board of Selectmen has put this forward is to comply with the law. I don't think that they have, in any meeting, same with the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee, have stated specific positives from this, rather that it is to comply with the law.
Got it. So that right there in an answer, and I appreciate your honesty, and it's not that you're in the firing squad, right?
Nobody's got anything against it.
We know that. So here's what I would say, and I know we're probably going to move to some kind of recommendation or whatever that's going to be tonight, but I think that that alone being the answer of, well, we're just going to comply when the big bad wolf huffs and puffs, I don't think is enough of an upside for us to overturn all of the downsides. And so I think that that's where at least I'm going to stand. And I'll leave it at that. So thank you. That was really the only question that I had.
Brendan, you got one more.
Amy, do you have anything you'd like to add or ask or comment on, please?
Well, I have a lot, so.
Okay, go for it.
I would love to hear from you guys first, because I've been speaking about this for a long time. I'm pretty sure everybody in this room knows how I feel about it.
Rick?
Not much. It's in defense of the selectmen, what I see, this overlay they came up with, because originally, from what I understood from this, there was a half-mile radius from a train station, which opens up, a lot of, like somebody mentioned, tearing down houses and putting up, so it opens, it's a lot more potential for something to happen. The district they came up with, like you said, is like 85% wet, and they used Twin Lakes as part of it, which is a plus. It was kind of a bonus the state would go for that. So in other words, just kind of getting them off the hook. And, you provide them with a piece of property that really you can't do a heck of a lot with. I'm so sure it'd be nice to know exactly what could be done with it. What can be built here and there. We got upland here, here's this access here. You can look at the map and get a rough idea, but like you said, it's bits and pieces. So something can be done with it, but I think they did a good job of getting the state to go with this overlay district, just to, like you said, they had to give the state something. So like you said, in their defense, that doesn't say that we have to go for it.
And one thing you're not talking all the residents.
Amy, go ahead. Why don't you go next, please?
Oh, I'd love you to go first.
I have to agree. I don't see a lot of upside on this. I really don't. The other thing is, like do you mind if I speak? I'm sorry, thanks. Bottom line, we're here because we have to be. We are, it does have to come to town meeting. It's certainly, the town meeting, it's gonna be up to vote on this, from the townspeople. And again, we're only presenting the facts as they're given to us, and we have our own decisions to make, and that'll be made on the December town meeting, as Mr. Haddad said. But I'm having a tough time, even like Brendan said, even coming up with an upside on this. Other than, yes, we have to comply with the state mandate. Well, we have to present it. We have to present it, and again. That's where I am on it. How about now, Amy? You all set?
I am.
Okay, let's do it.
I see huge holes in this zoning bylaw that is here. Number one, the chart's not in here. Number two, it doesn't say anything about conservation. It doesn't say anything about wetlands. Zero. I also will alert you that in May, at the annual town meeting, there is going to be a slew of other zoning bylaw changes, and one of them is 167-28, which is site plan review. And I haven't seen all of those because even though I am a member of the planning board and had an open seat on the zoning bylaw review committee, our current board before the election in May of 2024, our previous board before May of 2024 when Tom Pratt was elected, removed me from that. And there is 0 planning board members on it. They took it from 9 members down to 5. And honestly, it saved me a lot of time because I wouldn't have been for doing what they did to our zoning bylaws. And then I will also state that this current article that's right here, it says site plan. Well, you guys, if you vote for this in December, say you said yes, site plan's gonna change in May. What's that site plan gonna be? Also, the state mandate, I am not somebody who will ever say yes to a mandate. This is absolutely against everybody's property rights. You bought in a town that already has a master plan. It's called your zoning bylaws and the charts. The charts that say what you need for frontage, what you need for setbacks and the whole 9 yards. It protects you. It's there for a reason. Some of you mentioned traffic. Some of you mentioned water. Well, we already have water bans. We already have major traffic problems. We already have people in tax default. We're seeing foreclosures come on the market left and right. We've sold double to triple the amount of properties in the town of Halifax and all of the suburbs outside of the metropolitan areas in the last several years. And it's a skyrocketing problem of people leaving the state. There is not a crisis. It is all in the metropolitan areas where all these vacancies, and there's been over a year's worth of inventories in all the metropolitan areas throughout this time, so you're being propagandized. There is absolutely nothing that you can do. There is people being put into the point that are illegal immigrants, and you're paying their rent. So I'm 100% against this. I'm also going to point out the fact that the senior overlay district is in the Montponset watershed, which was not information that ever got out because our conservation didn't do any wetlands flagging. They didn't make sure that the turtles were actually out of the area. They didn't do a vernal pool study that was put into the Registry of Deeds in January of 2024, and it was never followed through because you need a year to do that study. So we already see that the septic system for the senior overlay district was given a variance to be closer to the water table. I've also will point out that our town has not been educating on the other side. They've been, basically the zoning bylaw review committee sat down with OCPC, which is Old Colony Planning Committee, and different people from the state that are pushing this. So they get paid to push this, and that's who they wrote bylaws with. And that I find abhorrent. Because when you buy your property in your deed, that's all there, and then your zoning bylaws, that's gonna be the next thing I'm gonna hit. Your zoning bylaws usually have to have a 2/3 majority in order to change them. This is a 51%, which is a direct hit on everybody in this town. 51% to change your zoning bylaws, that means that anything can happen next to you. And then Jerry, you said something about what could happen around you. Even though it's an overlay district, if you put 530 to 750 units there, you're gonna have a ton of traffic. I'm gonna talk about widening roads. It's gonna change your entire area. Entire.
We live on Garden Road, so we're 100% with you on that one.
Please, sir, let her finish. Thank you.
I'm okay with him saying that. Go ahead.
We'd be looking at a highway going in there. Not to mention our wells would run dry because they would have a hole from the water table.
That is very true. And then the other thing about not being able to build it, so I've been educating myself and around with the different attorneys that are doing a pro bono class action suit. I have us on there as a citizens joining with that. We could join that. I've given the option to the leaders to actually look at the forums that they give and talk to these people. Of course, they haven't seen that side. I made that point to a selectman the other day at voting day on November 5th. And, you know, he's like, oh, I listen to everybody, really? I don't think you listen to me. And I think you removed me from the zoning bylaw review committee, which is, how do you do that? I had an open seat. How do you do that? A town clerk stamped open seat. That's very wrong. And I'm okay with it, though. Like, they're making their choices. But that area being zoned and outwardly stating out loud that, oh, they're not going to be able to build in there because there's too much wetlands, opens carte blanche for a very big issue. You cannot zone an area and have it not be done. That does not work. And, I mean, there's so many problems with this. We should be looking into saying absolutely no. We should be joining in huge numbers the class action suit even further. I can help out with any of that if you want. I can have the attorney come down here and actually tell you why they all got involved. There's a team because their town took it and now they're trying to get out of it, and they have been reaching around the entire state and getting more and more people joining. Rehoboth is going to be against this. Marshfield's against this. I don't have the numbers on all the towns that are against this, but there is a large amount. It's over 50% of the actual towns that are on the list that are actually saying no, Hanson being one of them right next door. Plimpton won't even see this until next year, and they're an adjacent community, and they're going to be having to deal with that too. Silver Lake can't take it. Kingston's already overloaded. Halifax is already having issues. So imagine this. If you put 530 to 750 units in this town, you're going to have, oh, and by the way, there's no bedroom restrictions on any of that, right? Okay. Right. So we have water issues already. Now let's add all those. Let's add all those cars to the streets. Let's add all those kids to the elementary school. Oh, wait, you got to add on to that elementary school. You got to add on a middle school, a high school. I mean, I'm up in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and we're worried about $1 million in grants, maybe. Well, let me tell you this too. MEMA, which is Massachusetts Emergency, thank you very much, Management Agency, did not have their grants funded this year. So think about that. When we have $1 billion going out for illegal immigrants, I don't really think that you should worry about, I mean, we're not funding things. Everybody knows that. So don't worry about the grants. It's a threat. And plus, that's your money going back to you with strings attached. So absolutely no. I didn't know about Cranland. I'm extremely happy that you came here tonight and let us know that. Thank you very much. What else? I think overall, it's extremely important that you say no to this. I think that you better bring all your friends. It's a holiday party, as I've stated somewhere. I think some of you have seen that. We're having a holiday party. Let's keep our town and keep our property rights. And I like to have water come out of my faucet. I don't know about you. Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll explain.
So before I do that, though, so
We're gonna.
Okay. Well, like Mr. Haddad had said, we have options here as the planning board. We can vote either not to make a recommendation, we can vote in favor of it, or we can vote against it.
Right.
So those are our three options.
So before we do that, I just want to have I just want to have one last remark, but I think it's more of just we're all on the same page here, so it's more of just putting a little icing on the cake or maybe a cherry on top. But I think we all have dealt with bullies in the past, and bullies operate off of fear mongering and threats. And I think you'd be surprised on a global scale or on a more macro level when somebody says, you have to do this and it came from this seal on the letterhead or else, you'd be surprised how many people will probably just fall in line. Well, I think anybody that's dealt with a bully has also known that the only way to stop a bully is to plant your foot, say enough is enough, and swing back. So I think Halifax, I don't want to speak on behalf of the rest of our board, but I would like to push for us to have some kind of recommendation in favor of not supporting this.
Okay, at this point then, I'll ask the board
hold
for a motion to,
Hold on, we can't do that yet. First of all, there's the hearing still open, there's some people that just raised their hand, and then also we'll need to close the hearing and then
Right.
do that.
Right.
So, make sure, I would say, and, yeah.
okay, we'll take one last comment, Mrs. Favor.
Karen Favor, 66 Clyde Bosworth. Amy, you had mentioned that it's changed to, it's 51%
That's correct.
of the vote. I have two questions. How did it become is it mandated that it be at a town meeting? Because just my thought personally is town meeting's only a few hours, okay? Whereas it couldn't have been in a written election, you know, on a Saturday that more people could
What
come.
town meeting are you going to that's only a couple hours?
Well, a lot of people work nights, can't be there, they can't vote. Is there an absentee
No.
vote?
No,
No,
I,
there is not.
So it's not fair, that's why, that's my point,
Yeah.
right? Is there should have been, who decided that it was gonna be at town meeting? Is that what it says in
Mr.
this?
Haddad, I don't,
I
I don't
can- I
think
can
there is
answer
even a
her.
question to that. Mr.
I can
Haddad?
answer her. The town meeting is something that we always change bylaws at. Usually, by fairness, we would have it at the annual town meeting, and not have zoning bylaw changes around Christmas, Hanukkah, Festivus for the rest of us, and, you know, add on to the choir concert and all this other stuff. It's really not fair to the people, because we have to remember that we're all here and we're supposed to represent the people of the town. We're not supposed to try and cordon off so that we can get things by. And I believe that's what happened last December, and that's one of the things that I have an issue with. And so that, I would say, is an issue.
But could it have been?
We can have it as that, and I'm not really quite sure how that process is, but I'll certainly look into that.
Let me see if I can get you an answer. Hold on.
So I just conferred with our town council here, Attorney Huxham. Massachusetts general law requires any zoning changes go before town meeting. That's not us, that's Mass General Law, that any zoning change has to go before town meeting. The reason it's when it is the state has that deadline of December 31st that the town has to have it implemented. So that's why we're bringing it before the town prior to the end of the year. So if the town were to approve it, we would be in compliance. We didn't do it at the annual town meeting because we had submitted for basically the state's feedback on this bylaw, and the state took about a little over 90 days to get back to us on their feedback. So we didn't want to bring a bylaw that potentially wasn't effective in accomplishing compliance with the state. So that's why it's in December, and it has to go to town meeting by state law.
Thank you.
All right.
Sure.
Yes, sir. Come up to the microphone, please, and your name and address.
Just to follow up on that, I travel extensively for work. I get my schedule a month at a time. If I'm going to be out of town, there will be no means for me voting on this?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Milton did put it to a referendum.
Just to
Okay,
clarify,
what I'm gonna-
Milton put it to a referendum after town meeting had passed it. Town meeting passed it, it went to a referendum, and then they voted to repeal it. And that's why Milton's in the situation they're in. But their town meeting did actually pass it initially.
What town was that? I'm sorry?
Milton.
Milton.
And then when it went to the ballot through a referendum, that's when the town as a whole voted to repeal it. But state law requires any zoning change go to town meeting.
Is there a way, sorry if I cut anybody off, is there a way to recommend to our selectmen when designing the agenda for the town meeting that this goes first?
That's not actually allowed in our bylaws because of the fact that this lovely lady, Maureen Rogers, that you would have liked, she was awesome. She made it so that we have to pull from a hat so that nobody can stack the meeting.
To your point, Mr. Elliott, there's only 2 articles we're anticipating, so it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just, after being at the town meeting since becoming a resident here, and trying to be involved, sometimes it's 12:30 at night, and sometimes the topics that have the most or are the most sensitive tend to fall towards the end. And I'm not saying that's done on purpose. It's probably by coincidence. But with this being such a hot button, it was just a question to see if we might be able to move it up. But at least there's only 2, and bring your friends.
As of now, that there could be an article added. The selectmen voted on the warrant on the 19th, but we anticipate 2. And like Ms. Troop said, it is our bylaw
At
says that it's a
random.
lottery system.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, what I'm going to do now is ask for a voice vote to close the public hearing. First, I need a motion and a second.
Is everybody all set? They don't have anything else to say? I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll ask for a voice vote. Brendan?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Rick?
Yes.
Okay, now the pleasure of the board. Accept a motion on, if in fact we want to make a recommendation or whatever the motion happens to be. Like, again, we have 3 options. I'll either not make a recommendation in favor, or
Well,
make a
somebody could make
recommendation
a
against.
motion, so I would be very thrilled to make a motion, but can I add one more? I'm going to add one more thing. Somebody brought up this mixed-use development, I think it was Van, with the retail. There really isn't any guidelines on what and how and parking spots, nothing. This is a very vague bylaw that would be very ambiguous, very ambiguous.
Well, again, if we vote, or at town meeting, we vote no and it doesn't go through, it would still, Mr. Haddad, questions like that would have to go through the process for permitting and whatnot. So in and of itself, we can't make changes to it now, or can we?
You can certainly recommend changes to it. If you're gonna, I anticipate you're gonna vote to not recommend this at town meeting, if I'm reading this right. And with that, if you're not recommending it, I'm not sure you would make a recommendation to change
on
something
top
if
of
you're
that.
not recommending.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was just adding some more things that are issues with it. And then the other thing is I didn't mention this because I have a lot to say about this. I could talk about it for hours. There are other towns in this state that have had this law that they've decided to adopt it. And they have built on wetlands, and they have recreated them in other towns. So please be sure to know that this is not a good thing, and it is also an ever-changing law. Like, they can just promulgate it anytime they want. So that.
Okay.
So I will make a motion to absolutely not recommend.
Against.
Yes, absolutely not recommend the MCMOD, multifamily overlay district.
So that we have complete clarification, when we cast our vote, can we just say for or against?
It'll be,
Well,
I just
there
made
is
a
a
motion.
There is a motion on
So
the floor.
can I get a
Against.
second?
So when I vote yes, I'm in favor of the motion. That is yes in favor of against. See where I went there?
That's the way
Oh, I
it's
see what
worded.
you're saying.
Yes.
See what I'm saying?
Okay.
Okay. When I say yes, it's not in favor of.
Okay.
It is
How
in
about-
favor of her motion that she is not in favor, that we are voting against.
Okay.
See what
yeah.
I'm saying?
That's a good point. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for that.
Would you
So
like to
should I
amend-
reword that
Yes,
somehow?
reworded that for or against.
Okay. I would be making a motion that we are against, thank you, the MBTA Communities Act.
To not
A no
recommend.
We are saying not recommending
Okay.
not recommending the MBTA Communities Act.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to not recommend.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Again, I'm going to ask for a voice vote. Brendan?
Yes, against.
I'm absolutely against it.
So.
Yes.
I vote yes, I'm not recommending. Rick?
No, I'm not crazy about it either. Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 to 0. Thank you very much. We're going to continue with our regular planning board hearing. Thank you very
Please
much.
feel
all
free
have
to
stay.
hang out.
No, you all have to stay. If we have to be here, you have to be here. Sorry to muddy the water there. Sorry to
No,
muddy the water
it's
there.
better to
No,
do
that
it
was a good point.
in the affirmative than...
It's like, oh, they all voted yes, and it's like, no, we voted yes for the no.
It wasn't very clear. I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah, that's it. I guess I can reboot my computer.
You're welcome.
Okay, our first appointment is a continuation of 24 SPR 24. Ladies and gentlemen, we're trying to finish the meeting. Could you take the conversations outside, please? Thank you. A continuation of the hearing, 24-SPR-244, Arnold Vera, site plan review application for map 73, lot 7A, Plymouth Street. Oh, wrong one. I understand Mr. Vera has requested an extension.
Yep, I'll make a motion to extend Arnold Ware 24 SPR-244 for 30 days, is it? Okay, extended 30 days to December 9th, 2024.
When's our next meeting in December? Is it before or after the 9th, I guess is my question.
Oh, it's right here.
No.
5th. Yep.
Okay, so it would include that next hearing, or next two.
Yep.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor for a 30-day extension. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's a motion and a second to allow Mr. Vera site plan review application be extended for 30 days to date certain.
December 9th.
December 9th.
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Unanimous.
Oh, hey, thanks. Bye, Tom. See you at home, buddy.
Is this just one of them?
What? No, he's my neighbor. We're in a fantasy football league, so can't really do. I'm already knocked out. It was a survivor league. I lost in the first game because I picked the Patriots to lose, and of course it's the only game they won.
Oh my God.
It's really close. That's why I don't bet on sports. That's why I don't bet in general. Just
Is there more than one copy?
for my
No,
money.
it's, oh, that's
we're
just, yeah.
Here, thanks. Just kidding.
All right, our next topic is on discussions for Autumn Lane. Cost to complete the scope of services estimated from PGB Engineering has been submitted. Again, I take it that they've contacted the different people, the contractor and whatnot. We gave them the name we recommended to. We're pretty much out of this at this point.
I expected them to be here tonight, but
Yeah, if there's no, I mean, it's all speculative, but they've been pretty adamant. And if
it's
they
been
were,
facilitated as best it can
Right.
be between the
Right.
board.
Yeah.
So they have what they need now.
and we took care of what we said we were gonna do with the letter and all that stuff to them.
I didn't even have to send the letter because they reached out to Pat Brennan themselves.
Oh, cool.
And then they, Triani was on email, so
Got it.
everybody talked to each other, so.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, it looks good.
our next topic is, we have Code of Conduct from the Board of Selectmen. From what I understand, Board of Selectmen, computer overlay. This Code of Conduct was recommended by the Selectmen to all of the boards, all the employees in town. Understanding, of course, that I believe in the letter it states, even though we're an elected board, we can still comply with a code of conduct as far as anybody have any questions, comments, or anything like that?
Is this something that they're requesting us to sign off on, like we approve it, or
Yes, that,
adopt it?
As a policy.
I think it can be a little bit inhibiting and also dangerous if you wrote something on Facebook, for instance, that they didn't like, that you now become liable for it, and it could be, yes, so I would probably say that that's not really a good idea.
I think too, in the same breath, as far as a board goes, I mean, as far as Facebook and you making personal comments and opinions and voicing personal opinions that are not speaking for the board.
Yeah, exactly.
Is not included and wouldn't have anything to do with a code of conduct.
It could get really hairy. I mean, we already know, like, you're supposed to follow the rules, you're not supposed, all of that stuff. That's already what we're here and what our code of ethics with the state does. So I really just think that there's some things in here that,
Like what? Personally, Amy, I'm not seeing anything that actually doesn't
I just
make
think
sense
that-
and is logical and gifts in favor and
well,
confidential
it's
information.
already within our
and
code of ethics.
Use
and
of,
It's already within our code of ethics. And so it's just adding another layer, and like adding a law is like, now you gotta do this or that, like, let's just keep it simple, stupid. Nobody's doing anything here. We might have discussions and arguments, but that's actually what our job is. Our job up here is not to always agree.
right.
And our job, we might, be passionate about some things and all of that, and I don't think that it's anything that should step over. I don't think that we should be adopting laws, or
No one's
preambles.
prohibiting that, it's just how you go about doing it. When I say you, I mean all the members that are involved with it.
Does it say in here what the, compliance and enforcement? Okay.
I mean, wouldn't you want to look at this a little bit longer than tonight and decide whether you're not gonna, I mean, this is a big, long thing. You might want to read it and ponder over it for a minute, so why don't we put it off to the next meeting? I know that you have it in our email, but I'm just saying, obviously he hasn't had a chance to read it yet, so.
Not in its entirety. I skimmed over the bullet points of articles, basically, to see if there was anything that stood out to me, but it seemed like a pretty general code of conduct.
I think the same thing, and what you were saying too, right there at the bottom of page 5, the very last paragraph, and, penalties or remedies are provided by law, not by the Board of Selectmen may intervene. The conduct does not comply with ethical standards. And it references the code of ethics. Again, I think it's just basically common sense.
One of the things that I'd want to make sure, and this actually, by the way, when I say this, Bert, this actually has absolutely nothing to do with you. It's more for the future of the seat, right? But when it says the chair has the responsibility for intervening when actions of members appear to be in violation of the code of ethics, that alone kind of makes it like if some random person has a problem with another person and they make it personal, and then in some way can maneuver through this, that they can remove the it doesn't say.
No, it
like,
doesn't say anything about
It's
that.
not that. It's not saying that they can
No,
remove it.
of course not. You're elected,
Right.
But still, any member on the board, does not have the right to shut up another member of the board. So by signing this, that allows that, and that's not
Where does it say that?
Well-
Somebody could say shut up to somebody? and
No. You're
No,
not
I mean,
allowed to tell somebody to not continue to talk, is what I was meaning.
No, I don't mean it like on a, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. I don't mean it on like a petty level of like just a disagreement. I mean it more like if I'm the chair and I don't like you and you say something and I go, you know what? I think you're in violation. So I'm gonna drop the hammer on you, and it's made personally. Like what are the back out safety nets there to allow somebody not to abuse the power of the position is my question. Like that's literally the only thing I have a problem, not even a problem with. My big thing is the or else thing of like, okay, so if something comes up and somebody says you can't do that, I'm like, okay, and if I do, what happens? And here, it just says the chair has the responsibility to intervening when actions of a member appear to be in violation. That makes sense on the surface. If you peel it back a little bit, it's what if personalities get involved? Then does the rest of the board come together and go, listen, this is not like an official complaint thing, this is between the two of you on a personal level? Or is that just kind of a broad spectrum that can be maneuvered?
I think it's a very broad spectrum. It's just basically how we treat each other and treat everybody on the different boards in the town hall.
It starts
I don't see
crossing.
it as any type of, any vehicle to punish somebody.
No,
by
I
or
get it.
anything like that.
I agree on this board. I meant more like if somebody 10 years from now gets in and as the chair and says, you know what, I don't like that. I mean, sometimes these elections and sometimes these boards get pretty heated, as we've all seen, right? And so does this say that this is giving one person or another an ability to incite some kind of consequence on another board member?
It
That's really my
mentions nothing about that.
It's just naming a person,
Yeah.
everyone points the finger, like
Right,
who,
right,
who
right,
takes
right.
care of it, who
Oh,
does
yeah,
something, like.
So basically the way the whole town's being run right now,
but
everybody just doing this.
This makes it so it's not that, it's
Right.
just.
Not really, because it doesn't, so when you're elected member of a board, nobody has any authority over anyone else at all. Like, we all have equal membership. So that's, this, nobody can, in state law, it actually states, in state law, it states that no member can tell somebody that their time's up or not allow them to speak or anything. This is putting a couple of things in here that become ambiguous. And that's the problem. Like, we already have state laws. So there's no use, we shouldn't be putting
These aren't
another
laws that we're
layer.
referring to, they're just talking about
Well,
common decency
then
with one another.
Well, we already have that. We have a code of ethics, we have, that's just the way it goes. I just think that this is another layer of bureaucracy that we don't need.
So I think maybe that I read this wrong. Not that I read it wrong, but I think I kind of went through it with a little bit more of a, trying to find a hole, which can be a problem, because if you're looking for a hole, you can usually find one. Because if I'm rereading this from a different angle, it's more of if there's something that needs to be done, or notification that somebody's in violation, it's gonna fall upon the chair to deliver that news, not that the chair has the power to in some way incite a penalty.
What do you think, Rick?
But it's even saying here, if the chair is in violation, one of the members can intervene.
Right, right.
And then if,
That's-
then
yeah,
it comes right down to it.
that's why I was saying as I
if,
reread
you know,
it.
if they're being real jerks, the selectmen can intervene.
Right.
Which really they can't, because they can't, so there's a whole, that's like some of the reason why I think that this is a little bit over the top, and I just think the idea and the sentiment might be good, but the overall, like, duplication of things, and, I don't know, I mean, it's just sort of silly. I think we all have had our arguments, and then we all have our days that we're okay and still care. And I think that the main job of our board is to do the job for, you know, how we see it is through the bylaws, so.
Well, actually, I agree with Amy that I think there is an awful lot to digest in this, and maybe we should put it off until our next meeting to go through it and digest it. You know, here's 6 pages, ready, go. You know,
I also think
kinda makes sense
that when
to-
I think
I
about
agree.
it, right, it's like, yeah, to Amy's point, we do have already a code of ethics that we sign when we get sworn in, right? I can also see, just in my short time here, I've already had to almost break up a fight in the meeting between the chairman of the board and a resident, obviously before you, right? And sometimes things get heated, so I can see why the selectmen would say, all right, you have one on the state level, now we're gonna have one on the town level that basically is the same thing, but everybody needs to start acting like, don't forget you're an elected official, and we need to be representing the town, and not threatening to fight somebody in the parking lot.
I agree.
So I think.
I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah, and that person will remain nameless for the
Okay,
sake of liability,
cool.
but it was, the chairman of this board, yeah, on my first year, and it was,
wasn't
you wanna meet in the parking lot? And it was like, guys.
Oh, I
you're kidding me,
vaguely
bro.
remember that now. Okay.
So anyways, so I think that between that, and there's probably a bunch of other things in meetings like this, where it's a little bit more of a heated conversation, where the selectmen are like, we don't wanna babysit anymore, so you know what, sign this thing, adopt it, and act like adults. I think that that's what the overall
think that's-
initial gist of this has been.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's the point?
Yeah.
I don't think it's in any way trying to overstep or be big big government and tell you how you have
Well,
to
they
dress to a meeting.
can't legally, but because they don't oversee us anyways.
Right. It's
But-
probably more of a, in good faith, can we all just get on the same page and act like adults and act like we're elected officials here?
I think we
Well,
already
What's the
are.
pleasure of the board? You want to,
I think that we should,
tonight? You want
no.
to put it off to,
I want to delay it. I want to read it, like solidly.
Whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's,
How about you,
I don't have a horse in the
Yeah, I
race.
don't care, it doesn't matter to me if I sign it tonight. Doesn't matter to me. I'll wait another meeting and think about it more.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just breezed through it, to me, it looked like pretty much the same thing.
The same
as
thing that we signed the
other-
first time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if it would be, in an effort to act as a team, right? If all of us are indifferent and we have somebody that is passionate about it, I think we have to do our due diligence to support that.
let's do that then. How about, I'll accept a motion to post. to give
I'll
us
make a
time to
motion
review it, and then,
to
we'll
postpone
address it on our
this
next meeting.
until November 21st, 2024.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second?
So motion and a second. All those in favor of taking the time to review it and then addressing the issue at our next meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And what's our last, we have minutes. Oh, do we have bills too? Oh, yeah, let's do bills. Yeah, one, thank you.
That's why I keep putting it.
I'll make a motion for a planning board expense in the amount of $90 for express newspapers for invoice number 15956 for the NBTA hearing notice.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor of paying that $90 bill as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
I make a motion to pay a planning board expense for express newspapers and a renewal subscription in the amount of $27.
Is there an invoice number or anything?
Nope, just renewal subscription.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of paying that invoice, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Rick, Mary.
You have the folder still, right?
And now we got, what do we have? That's out there. We have bills.
Thank you.
No, we have minutes.
I did see them in my email today. I don't know what day that you sent them to me because I didn't take notice of that, but it's been a crazy week. I was hoping that maybe we could push it off to the next meeting as well. And also, the list of chair and vice chair is off on these. Like, I think it's just probably a typo. I'm just saying.
Yeah, the last page.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Anyone feel like we're good to go, or do you need more time to read it over?
I don't, but.
How about you, Rick?
No, I wasn't here the 17th anyway, but the 3rd, I was fine.
I read them over. I don't have a problem with as they're presented. Other than, like you said.
Yeah,
the-
it's on
the-
both
the
of them.
typo.
Yeah.
So, do I have a motion regarding October 3rd to accept the minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Is that the one you wanted more time to read, or the?
No, that's the minutes. These are the minutes.
I wanted more time, but it's okay.
Okay. I just wasn't sure.
It's fine.
So, I second. Sure.
There's a motion and a second to accept the meeting minutes of Thursday, October 3rd, 2024 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Abstain.
Passes 3 in favor, 1 abstention. And make a note, Danielle, if you could fix that, please. It's just a typo thing.
Yeah.
Should we wait? Well, I'm gonna sign it, and then if it has to be,
Well, you know how we do it in real estate, we do it like this. And then initial it. You know what I mean? Change. You know what I mean?
Rick Mary.
Just a member, nobody. Just a lonely old member.
Were you at that one?
The 3rd.
Yeah, you were at this one. You signed this one. Okay, the minutes of Thursday, October 17th, 2024. Anybody have any changes, deletions, or? There is no spacing on the back, yeah. Same thing, we'll have to fix that. Any changes, deletions, or corrections on the minutes of Thursday, October 17th, 2024?
Are you looking for a motion?
Yes.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Do I have a second?
No.
I'll
I'll
sec-
second it just for, the-
Okay.
yeah.
Voting on this then is myself, Amy Troop, Brendan Elliott. All those in, I'll go for a voice vote, there's only three of us. Brendan?
Elliott's a yes.
Myself is a yes. Amy?
Abstain.
Passes.
Your kid is very well behaved. We should get it done.
I can.
Thank you.
You bet.
Extra help.
Okay, what else do we have? Somebody say nothing.
I'm fighting for you to get.
Nothing. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Minutes, notice of public hearing, bills. Motion to adjourn, there's a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion adjourned.